Hello. I plan to discuss some of the aspects relating to the problems between India and China, especially in the context of Ladakh or also in the context of Sikkim. In discussing this, my basic argument is, and that is a kind of a framework which I would want to build. My basic argument is that I would want to talk of it at two levels. One is at a local level and another at a global level. When I am talking of it at a local level, I would want to make certain clarifications. I have never been in uniform. When I am talking of things at a local level, whether it is Ladakh, whether it is Sikkim, I am not talking of local level tactics, local level strategies, local level warfare patterns in terms of low intensity conflict, how things are tackled, etc. That is not my area. I have no intentions of talking about things of which I am not aware. I have no experience. Essentially because when a local commander takes a certain position and takes a certain action, I presume there is a freedom to that local commander to do that given the kind of circumstances which are there. It is a decision taken on the spot. It is a decision taken by a person who is there. It would be wrong on my part to talk of that decision, discuss that decision, discuss the kind of tactics used, discuss the kind of strategies used, when I am neither having the necessary expertise to do that nor having the adequate knowledge of the locale and the situation within which that decision was taken. And as I said, that is not my area. I have no intentions on talking on it. I would also feel, but again that is my personal opinion, I would also feel that those who are not aware of all of these issues should refrain from making comments on specific tactics used in a specific war-like situation. But as I said, that is my personal opinion. My essential argument is, let me look at it first at a global level and I will come back to local issues. Look at it at the global level. Look at it from the perspective of why China is behaving in a particular manner. Again, this is my understanding. My argument is that if you look at the Chinese political system, if you look at the Chinese economic system, if you look at the entire system by which the Chinese Communist Party tends to control its people in a whole authoritarian kind of manner, the critical component would be that there is a stable, prospering economy where people find that there is a stake in the system which they would want to continue. If the people find that the economy is faltering, they are going to have crisis, they will lose the stake in the system and then naturally they will have an adverse reaction. I will give you a side comment on this. Look at Tiananmen Square, 1989. Tiananmen Square episode took place where students got together to agitate and fight against that system. Pro-democracy, if you want to label it in that manner. It was crushed, brutally crushed. But my argument is that the average Chinese person does not appear to have participated or supported that movement. It remained a kind of a contained phenomena. Chinese economy did not collapse. Why? Perhaps because the average Chinese felt that they have a stake in the system which they do not want to change, and since they did not want to change that system, they would not support any kind of a drastic revolution that the students were trying to do, because the uncertainties in that were something that they did not want to address or come to face. On a similar line, what I am trying to say is, if you look at the Chinese economy, which is the core of the whole system, if Chinese economy continues to remain stable, the current Chinese dispensation would have no problems in terms of retaining their hold. But the Chinese economy started to have a crisis when the Trump administration initiated series of actions against China in terms of trade. Again, this is my opinion. When this started in terms of actions, trade war, United States and China, the first crisis starts to occur in China in terms of the kind of economic crisis that you will see. It is multiplied with the coronavirus crisis. And if Chinese economy is in doldrums, if it is in a crisis, people are bound to react adversely. And to retain control on these people, either you restart the economy, which the Chinese tried to do, but apparently it is not succeeding in that manner, or you take another line. And that another line is, you start to talk of a militant nationalism, that your nation is threatened from a variety of outside forces that need to come together. And that militant nationalism of China is now seen almost everywhere. It is seen in the context of United States. It is seen in the context of Canada, in the context of Australia, in the context of Japan, South China Sea, where Chinese aggression in South China Sea is something which the littoral states of the South China Sea are really facing. It is seen in the context of Hong Kong, where the security law is being implemented. Taiwan, a lot of pressure is being brought. It is seen in the context of India. In case of Pakistan, there is an assertion in terms of what Chinese want to do in Pakistan. Same in the case of Indian Ocean. Again, on a side comment, Nepal's actions in terms of the maps, changing of maps, etc., and Nepal Prime Minister's argument that the Indian government is trying to topple him, is essentially a militant nationalism card used by the Nepali Prime Minister to fight perhaps an internal crisis. In case of Nepal, militant nationalism is used when you talk anti-India. Militant nationalism is not used in terms of anti-China, despite the fact that there is a problem between China and Nepal in terms of borders, but that is not the issue now that I am talking of. My point is, one needs to look at Ladakh or Sikkim from these perspectives. Let me add, Chinese are also aggressive in terms of diplomacy. Wolf warriors is the kind of a new terminology which is coming in. Wolf warriors is a pattern which the Chinese have used from a film, American Rambo kind of a thing. So, Chinese wolf warriors. Wolf warriors, their diplomacy has changed. It is no more the Chow En-lai kind of diplomacy. It is no more the Deng Xiaoping kind of a diplomacy. Quiet, dialogue, discussion, long discussions. No, it is essentially an aggressive diplomacy, whether it is on social networking, whether it is directly. My argument is, this is the way one has to look at China. What is their grand strategy? What are they trying to do? Ladakh is part of this whole scheme of a Chinese emergent worldview that one has to look at. This does not mean that one has to ignore Ladakh and say that, well, something will be happened. No. Local level problems have to be solved at local levels. Since Doklam, India has taken a very clear-cut stand. That is the latest case, but it has taken a very clear-cut stand that if there is pressure, if there is incursion, if the Chinese are trying to do something, change status quo, we will resist. And we have exhibited the ability to resist, exhibited the ability to continue to resist for several months till the problem gets resolved, till you return to status quo. This is likely to continue in case of Ladakh. This is likely to continue in the sense that issues here would not be resolved in a month or two, they would prolong. But it is in that context that one must understand that a multiple level approach by India is equally necessary. One is a local level approach on which it is essentially a military, strategic, tactical approach on which, as I said, I have no expertise to talk and I would not make any comments. India has proved its worth earlier and it is bound to do that now, but that is not my area. My argument is India would also simultaneously have to, and that is what India is doing, create its own world view, create its own strategic map, a roadmap, a diplomatic roadmap, where a politico-military perspective needs to come in, and that is the kind of thing that India is seeking out and doing in terms of global networking, in terms of networking with countries like United States, Japan, Australia, which already in the pipeline, with Russia, which is also in the pipeline, which is being implemented, both of these areas, and then have a comprehensive strategy. In all of this, what is really necessary is a sense of national unity, a sense where people would get together and argue that yes, this is the need of the hour and we need to come together to raise issues and really tackle this, because it is necessary for the people from outside to also see this Indian unity in terms of a crisis, and that is where one should back what is being done and create a national consensus in terms of discussions on national security are bound to be there. I mean, they are necessary, but discussions on policy, not on tactics, local tactics, because discussions essentially would argue that this is our perspective which we must pursue. You have to show your national unity not only to ourselves but also to the world at large. Grand strategies are created in that manner. Thank you.